Hey, what's up? It's your boy BobbySapphire, and today we are going to talk about 5 weeks of grinding. I just got done playing 5 straight weekends of tournaments, starting with SCG Atlanta at the beginning of January and ending with the PQ in Clifton Park, New York at the end of February. I'm going to talk about how I did, what I learned, key takeaways, and what I love about this game, and absolutely some insane Geonosis Patrol Fighter plays. You got to see these. Check it out. And if you didn't know, I make written versions of all my videos exclusively for Patreon subscribers over at patreon.com/KTOD. But this week, I'm giving you my tournament report for the first half of the season completely free. Sign up as a free subscriber, and you'll get it in written form like you see here on the screen. Thanks. Check it out. I was really hyped to fly to Atlanta for my first SCG Con, playing some cash events down there. Traveled with my teammate Alex Blandon, and he did really well as well. I played Quinlan on Friday and knew that I was going to play Jango on Saturday, but just kind of wanted to mix it up, not play the same deck all weekend. I ended up going 5-2 in Swiss. I started 5-0, and actually all 5 weeks you'll see that I start 5-0. And in round 6, I lost to Ian Lego Pizza from the Bothan Network, who eventually won the event. In round 7, I actually scooped to my teammate Alex Blandon. I looked at the tiebreakers before the event, before our round started, and saw that even though he had higher breakers than me, by scooping to him, and Ian was playing someone that I already beat. So essentially, like, I would have in my my opponent win percentage 3 of the top players in the event if I scooped. So before we sat down at the table, I looked at the results, and even before I got there, I put in that I would scoop to him. I didn't really want to play my teammate, and it was the final round of the event, and I think we were both safe, but it would have worked out a little bit better if I scooped to him, so I did. In the quarterfinals, I played against Tarkintown, and in the semifinals, I lost again to Lego Pizza. Much closer match. It was actually a great match. Game 2 and 3 are on stream. I'm not sure why game 1 wasn't on stream, but there were some stream issues that weekend. The number one thing I took away from this event was that the Han matchup was a lot more precarious than I thought, and there were certain ways I had to play it. In my second game against Ian in the semifinals, he sparked me turn 1, and he took my crafty smuggler, and I couldn't go to the ground, which meant I had no way to do any damage to his tech. Combine the 2 attack from the crafty with Tarkintown, he can't DJ me. But then the coast was clear. So I learned that weekend that to beat Han, I had to start ground. So when I started playing Han in testing and in tournaments, I mulligan for a ground start. Crafty, ISB, Greedo. I even end up adding more 1-drops to my deck. Just make sure I had ground plays and I could go wide on the ground. Make sure I could damage tech and not DJ, because you got to hit the tech before the DJ. In that same game, I ended up drawing Daring Raid, and Ian had tech out, and I should have opened the turn by Daring Raiding tech. That way, when he put down a resource with Han, I could Tarkintown before he could DJ. I didn't do that. I thought, I'll just save. I'll let him do all that, and I'll save the Tarkintown play for DJ. Only when he DJ'd me, that gave him his 6th resource. So before I could kill DJ, Ian flips his Han, he gets another resource, and now I'm so far behind. I just scooped him up and we went to game 3. So that was a really important lesson for me to learn. And I basically changed my deck and my strategy to be able to beat Han Yellow. And after this weekend, I didn't lose to a Han Yellow the entire rest of the season. The other thing I did was test and play Geonosis Patrol Fighter. And the plays that I have made with this card over the course of these 5 weeks have been completely cracked. I'm talking exploit 2 Ruthless Raiders to deal 4 to base, but also to ping a shield off Maul that's about to kill me, and tap down that same Maul because of the way the exploit triggers happen one at a time, or the when defeated triggers happen one at a time. I didn't win that game, but it was very cool. I had a game where I was absolutely about to lose to Quinlan, but I was able to sack 2 things. My Jango was alive. I was able to exploit 2 things, a P-38 and a Ruthless Raider, tap down 2 things, bounce something else, and be able to win in 2 actions, leaving my Quinlan opponent with only 1 attacker. So when Jango's alive, I can use Geonosis Patrol Fighter to exploit multiple things. And you could do this with tank too, the heavy Persuader tank, because always be persuading. But because Geonosis Patrol Fighter bounces something as well, that turns this card into almost like a cunning, really, especially when you play it off of Triple Dark Raid, because you get the 3 attack, it's like pumping. You get to bounce something, it's like bouncing, it literally is. And then you get to tap something, maybe 2 things because of the way Jango works. So this card, it just ends up being really crazy, and it is truly my favorite card in the deck because I use it so much. After I played 2 in Atlanta, that thing has become a staple. It's card number 1 for me, and it's just been really great. So a lot of learning from this event, specifically how to navigate the Han matchup. All right, week 2 brought me to double midnight games in New Hampshire. This is actually my shortest trip of the week. I only had to drive about an hour, 20 minutes to go to New Hampshire for the PQ. Once again, I started out 5-0 before I ran into Eric Hunter, my old friend from Star Wars CCG, in his Sabine ECL deck. He had a great strategy, basically always just mulling for Sundari Peacekeeper and holding his ECL for Wrecker. That was very good against me in those matchups. And then losing a heartbreaking Ray Yellow game that came down to the wire. I think I misplayed. I think he misplayed. So it was like, and it was against NJ Cuenca. And for those of you who followed the Hyperloops, know that he's one of my closest friends through cards over these years. And he was able to beat me. But because I started 5-0, I kind of just assumed that I would be good, that I would be fine, because I had one of the highest breakers and I had the highest tournament record after 5 rounds. Lo and behold, I missed breakers by 1%, and pretty heartbroken because I really liked my list. I loved my start. It's pretty tough to go 5-0, 0-2 and miss, but them the break sometimes. The thing I added to my list this week was Smuggle. I added it in the form of 2 Arm to the Teeth. That was because in the previous week when I would play against Han and I would get Kierid, they would often find ways to brick my hand. And that happened in testing against Jango too. Against Quinlan too, because they would do things like K2, Spark, Force Throw me, so I wouldn't have anything to do. So what I added to the list was Smuggle, and I did that in Arm to the Teeth. Arm to the Teeth, amazing to play for 2, so when you draw it, you don't have to smuggle it, but a great card to keep in the cut for when your opponent taps out and all of a sudden you're doing 10 damage to their base. So I really loved Arm to the Teeth. I played it for several weeks after this. I even loved it so much that I added more Smuggle in subsequent weeks. The main takeaway for me in this event was don't lose. And I was like, it was a long drive home. I was not happy about bubbling. I had no one to blame but myself, of course. But from this point on, I decided that I just wasn't going to lose anymore. And so I tried not to as best as I could, and I think it went okay. Let's check out how I did in week 3. All right, if you haven't checked it out, we went to London for a PQ. We had a meet and greet with our subscribers and then played in a PQ. I took that loss in New Hampshire, or that bubble in New Hampshire, seriously. I decided to not lose a game in Swiss for this event. I played 4 mirror matches overall, 3 in Swiss, 1 in the quarterfinals against my buddy Zach, who came with us on the trip. The thing that I added to the deck this week was Reckless Gunslinger. I wanted extra 1-drop so I could go wide and have more things on the ground against Han Yellow, as I said, to make sure that I could hit tech for 2 and then Tarkintown him. Also going wide in that deck is really great. It also served as a great way for, again, when my opponent bricks my hand, I have Smuggle and I can play something out. 1 auto damage and a 2-1. I know it seems pretty underwhelming, but when you have nothing else to do and you've got no cards in your hand that you can play, it's actually really great. The eventual winner of the event beat me in the semifinals, but it was very close. He double ramped me both games as Boss Green. Up until that point, I hadn't had Fang Fighters in the main deck, and after this event, I started putting 1 in the main and keeping 2 in the board. I haven't played against any Boss since then in an event, but that Fang Fighter isn't going anywhere. I actually had an insane opportunity to steal a game. He claimed thinking that he won, and I didn't have any outs. He was at 22 life. I had a Ruthless Raider in play. I had a Triple Dark Raid. If I had found the Heavy Persuader tank, I could have exploited the Ruthless Raider and used the 2 damage from the tank and the Raider to kill his Sentinel, his Dark Phase Trooper. 2 damage to the base from the Raider, and 6 from the tank would have put him at exacties, but I missed. That's what happens sometimes. But it was really close, and all in all, this was a cool event. Everyone was super nice. I think, even though I lost in the semifinal, I think this is one of my best events that I've played to date in this game. I went 14-2 overall in Swiss, and the deck just hummed. I felt like I was hitting. I beat Benton from the Swoop Racers, who's a really amazing player over in Europe, so I was happy to like face some really good competition and take it down. And at this point in the season, I'm really happy with where I'm at, even though I didn't get the dub. But then we headed back to the States for one of 2 weekends in New York. All right, New York City. This I was really excited for this event because we're going to have 5 out of the 8 people on my team together at this event for the first time since Gen Con, which was really great. I got to play against both of my teammates, Wu and John Tata. Wu actually played against all 4 of us at the event from the team that weren't him. He played against Steve, he played against John, he played against Alex Blanchard, he played against me in the quarterfinals. I did lose one game in this event. I lost to my teammate John Tata. It was on stream. It was a Jango mirror match. He drew like crazy. I tried to keep up, but he had too much gas. And overall, I ended up losing a pretty heartbreaking match to Wu in game 2. I won game 1 against Kira ECL. In game 2, we went to 11 resources. I never saw TDR, and I came up 2 damage short before he was able to finish me off. In game 3, he steamrolled me with a triple devastating gunship draw after ramp, which is a great way for Kira to win that matchup if that's one that you've struggled with. The big tech that I did for this event was I was a little worried about Sabine and Quinlan and Han at this event. I knew that Lego Pizza was going to be there. All the McClunky guys were going to be there probably on Han. So I wanted something a little spicy out of the board that could brick some of their attacks. This is less useful in Han, but definitely more useful in Quinlan and Sabine. And those are the matchups I ended up facing throughout the day. 1 Sabine, 2 Quinlans. This tank ended up being gas in round 7. My winning in it bricked total attack. My opponent had to use Rebel Assault to get through it really, and it ate both attacks, and it didn't kill his Sabine leader, but it left it at 1, which I was able to ping and finish off. And then in each of my Quinlan matches, Kira named the patrolling AAT that was in my hand. So I think like that's pretty interesting because normally they would name, TDR or Ruthless Raider or something really important, but naming patrolling AAT, that seemed great. I resourced that bad boy and played something good. So I think overall I threw that in the sideboard. Just as like I thought it would be great. I thought it would be a good thing to sideboard in against these decks that like I really needed to go fast, and maybe a deck that I might sideboard out Fire Spray or a Heavy Persuader tank. And all in all, we had a great weekend. Between Wu, Tata, and myself, we all made top 8. We went 19-2 overall, and we only lost to each other. Tata beat me, Tata beat Wu. So it was actually like a really insane weekend. And because we were all at the same event, we knew only one of us could win, and we didn't even win. Lego Pizza won, but Tata got the bye because he came in second, and Lego Pizza already had a win. So we had a really great weekend. And even though we had to play each other, we were actually all on the same side of the top 8 bracket. So as long as Tata won his match and either Ian or I think one of the other McClunky guys might have been in top 8 with a bye, as long as Tata got to the finals, we felt pretty good about him being able to get a bye, and he did. So all in all, I call it a win. I went to a Michelin star restaurant in New York City. I saw a bunch of people that I haven't seen in a really long time. Shout out my buddy Carl Perlis. Who came to dinner with us. We had a couple great dinners and just like hanging with the team. I think this was my favorite event overall. Even more fun than London because it was like a little less stressful with the 48 hours of time in London with all that flying. But I had a really great event again, and we've got one more, Clifton Park. Can I take it down? No, I didn't take it down. I went undefeated in Swiss again. But this time I lost in the finals again to Kira ECL. My old subscriber from the Hyperloops, B Mini, Nikki Morgan, he took me down to the finals. You can check that out on the McClunky Twitch. I was on stream 3 times, the semifinals, the finals, and one of the Swiss rounds. So you'll notice that there are S's next to those W's. In both round 4 and the quarterfinals, my teammate Alex Blandon graciously scooped to me. I generally don't love being scooped to, even though I'm willing to do it for my teammates. I would rather play. In the top cut, I get why Alex would do that because he has a win and a bye, and I don't. But in Swiss, especially some like early in round 4, I would have rather played. And I asked him to play, but he had already put the submission in before we sat down, so not much I could do there. But I guess I appreciate it, and that's kind of the nature of teams. You want to lift your friends up. I get that, and I would do the same for my teammates. So even though I hate to accept, I also like to be the person to do that. So it's kind of an awkward position. But the rest of the event went really well. I beat Phil from McClunky Gaming, who's an excellent Han Yellow player. I beat two Anakin Blues here, two Han Yellows. Well, I guess only one Han Yellow. And the Kira ECL, I was able to beat in Swiss, the same player, Nikki, but lost in the finals. This week, I actually made changes to the deck that John Tada had been making and crushing with. I put in On the Doorstep and Hotshot Blaster cards that I hadn't put in previously, not because I didn't think they were good, but because I hadn't playtested with them, and I just didn't want to put cards in my deck that I didn't know how or want to play. And that's like recommendations I always give to people who ping me in the Discord about card decisions or that I coach. It's just that if you're not going to play this card and you're just going to resource it, you might as well play a card that you like. I think On the Doorstep and Hotshot are totally fine. They're not my favorite cards in the deck. Even this week, I played the Hotshot Blaster a couple times, but On the Doorstep, I only played once. It ended up winning me the game. It got me exacties. My opponent, Getsu, from McClunky Gaming. He was at 26 life and he claimed. I played On the Doorstep for 3, and I smuggled out a Reckless Gunslinger for 1 to finish him off. So these cards are good for sure. Will they stay on my list? Probably. I'm not sure. I don't have to play for a couple weeks, which is kind of great. The other thing I took away from this event is that I am tired. I played 5 straight weeks, and I don't love the way I played in the final. I think I could have played better, and I'm not taking anything away from Nick. Nick played amazing in the final. He ramped, he double ramped, he snoked. It was insane. But I definitely think I could have pulled out game 1. I had a hot start and a great hand, and I made a pretty bad decision when he cleared my board and I triple dark raided into his 5 open resources. And what I really should have done was rebuild my board. I could have played a P38 to ping kill his Kira and then play a Crafty Smuggler, make him deal with those, and play either play a Surprise Strike to start next turn if he couldn't kill both, and then follow up with a TDR. But instead, I led with the TDR, and he had the answer for it, and then I have no board. And then I have to rebuild with that P38 and the Crafty while he has a bunch of untapped guys. So it was really bad, and I think, I think the fatigue of playing 5 weekends in a row really got to me. That's not an excuse. That's something that I know now that I need to work on. My stamina isn't there. I need to keep going. But I do get a couple weeks off before a weekend of PQs. There's a Connecticut on Saturday and Massachusetts on Sunday of next weekend that I'm hoping to play in both. I have tickets, but I don't know if I want to spend that much time away from my family. So, that's been my journey. And I had another great Geonosis play in this game. You should check it out on the stream in the semifinal match versus Pasquale. Game 2. I definitely should have been dead, but I pulled it out because of my best friend, Geonosis Patrol Fighter. If you have seen me at one of these, it was great to see you and meet you. If you haven't seen me yet, come say hi. If you see me, I'll be in San Francisco. I'll be in Massachusetts. I'll be in Connecticut, hopefully. So come say hi. I hope you were able to take something away from this. Please check out my written form of this tournament report. I'll add even more in there, and I have links to deck list, my melee, the melee from the events, and the stream videos. So thanks for checking this out, and thanks for being with me on this journey. Good luck in your PQs, and see you soon.